This is Mac OS Ken.
More notes ahead of Apple earnings. Apple makes bank on its savings account and the end of an era for Apple retail. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of May, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macosken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. More analysts are sliding in under the wire ahead of Thursday's earnings report from Apple. Barron's ran a piece Monday with thoughts from BofA global research analyst Wamsi Mohan and UBS analyst David Vogt. While they are split on their ratings of the Cupertino company's shares, neither is enthusiastic about Apple's sales this fiscal year. Starting with Mr. Mohan, he's expecting guidance on Thursday's call to fall below the street's expectations. He's looking for Apple to sell 44 million iPhones for the current quarter versus the street's expectation of 49.9 million units. Of course, that's not a point on which Apple actually guides. Come to think of it, Apple hasn't offered guidance for the past few years, starting with the pandemic's beginning back in 2020. But let him have his fun, I guess. The directional insight that Apple does offer will be a letdown, seems to be Mr. Mohan's point. The Barron's piece says he expects Apple to report disappointing results later this year, citing weakening demand from consumers. And yet he has upped his price target due to rising multiples in the general stock market. Mohan used Monday's note to reiterate his neutral rating on Apple shares. He upped his price target by $5 though, shifting that from $168 to $173. Sorta kinda more positive was the David Vogt note from UBS. He is also looking for iPhone sales to disappoint, though his thoughts are on the full fiscal year. The street is looking for Apple to sell 229 million iPhones in FY23. Vogt thinks Apple will miss that number by 4 million units. Quoting Barron's, in the month of March, U.S. demand notably softened, Vogt wrote. While March data are in the past, softening month-over-month trends in the U.S. raise incremental risks for iPhone demand in Apple's June and September quarters. That said, he is still into the stock. He used Monday's note to reaffirm his buy rating on Apple shares, as well as his 12-month price target. That is set at $180. Looking less at Apple hardware than stuff to do with it was Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote Monday that featured hand-wringing over revenue from the App Store. It was down last month, according to the analyst. Quoting his note, App Store revenue declined 4% in April, a fourth straight month of declines. This is a relatively softer start to the June quarter, given comps are starting to get easier. Softer trends reflects deceleration in China, notably. The U.S. market continues to grow at a low single-digit rate, but not enough to offset double-digit declines in China and Japan. Daryanani says the App Store is the biggest part of Apple's services segment. Weakness there makes it hard for him to see how Apple's services growth accelerates. It's not that he thinks it won't, he's just having trouble seeing how. With the street expecting year-on-year growth of 13% for Apple services in the September quarter, Daryanani feels like he needs to see the App Store pick it up a bit in the current quarter. That aside, he is still big on the Cupertino company. Daryanani has an outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $190. You probably don't need a reminder, but I will remind you anyway. The fourth will be strong with Apple data. The Cupertino company will report March quarter earnings after the bell on Thursday, May the 4th. Half an hour later, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, Apple execs and Apple tracking analysts will do their quarterly Q&A. You can hear that as it happens on Apple's site. It'll be made available as a podcast soon after, and of course, we will do a recap right here on Friday. Were you like me, wildly disappointed in the April payout from your high-yield Apple savings account? I knew it wasn't going to be much money, but really anticlimactic. Still, it's a tiny bit more than I had before, so yay, I guess. You know who is making bank? Apple and the bank behind the high-yield savings accounts. Citing secret sources who maybe shouldn't be speaking, a piece from Forbes says in the first 4 days of availability, consumers put nearly $1 billion into the Apple Card savings accounts. Sources familiar with the matter say deposits grew close to $400 million on day one, climbing to around $990 million by the fourth day. By the end of the first week, the secret peeps say the number of new savings accounts stood at roughly 240,000. As for why, Forbes says the account's eye-catching 4.15% annual return, plus the ubiquity of iPhones, is likely the main driver for account openings, especially when the average bank is paying less than 0.5%. Apple hit with rapid security response updates on Monday that weren't so rapid for some. Let's start with what those are, though. According to an Apple support doc, rapid security responses deliver important security improvements between software updates. Examples offered in the support doc include improvements to the Safari web browser, the WebKit framework stack, or other critical system libraries. They may also be used to mitigate some security issues more quickly, such as issues that might have been exploited or reported to exist in the wild. While RSRs have been a thing in theory and a thing in testing since the launch last year of iOS 16 and macOS Ventura, a piece from Mac Rumors says Monday's releases, iOS 16.4.1a and macOS 13.3.1a, mark the first public RSR releases from Apple. What do they do? That is not for us mere mortals, it seems. They did have the side effect of frustrating some, though. iDownload blog ran a piece saying that a number of people got a sort of error message when trying to install the RSRs. Unable to verify security response, it said, followed by the message, security response failed verification because you are no longer connected to the internet. I got that message, and I assumed it was too many people trying to download the update at once. Tried it 2 more times, and that third time was a charm. If you've not seen the update yet, you might need to give it another day or so. The Mac Rumors piece mentioned earlier said Monday that Apple was releasing the rapid security response updates on a rolling basis across the next 48 hours, so not all users would see it right away. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, BetterHelp, online therapy. How present are you to what's happening with you? I had a partner once who was constantly distraught about hardships suffered by people halfway around the world. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's good to be aware. It is very good to care. But worry would keep her up at night. Keep her from focusing on friends and family around her, and keep her from focusing on herself. I'm not saying that to you, but if you are not making time for you, if you're not taking care of you, what good is that to you or the people around you? Therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life, so you can better care for yourself and the people in your life. And BetterHelp makes finding a therapist easy. It's all online. You don't have to worry about who's around you or how you're going to get there. If you've got a smartphone, tablet, or computer, you've got access. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. That online portion has been key for me. But find out for yourself. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/MacOSKen today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/MacOSKen. BetterHelp.com/MacOSKen. Apple TV Plus flagship series The Morning Show has been renewed for a 4th season, months ahead of the premiere of the 3rd season. Talk about a slow burn. The Morning Show was one of the first series to premiere on Apple TV Plus in 2019, which was about 17 years ago. Season 2 ended in late 2021. Looks like Season 3 will end in late 2023. According to a piece from Deadline, the show's 3rd season hits the stream this fall, and it will be followed by a 4th season. Anyway, that's what Deadline hears. According to the report, Deadline understands that although show leads Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon's contracts were up at the end of Season 3, Apple is in talks with the pair, who also executive produce, and they're expected to sign on as they also work out scheduling. We hear there's also an option for Season 5. Okay, look, I know TV loves the fact that TV can just happen whenever TV wants to now, but are you kidding me? You're looking at what, 9 years for 5 seasons? Kind of feels like it's gotten out of hand. With the 4th season likely years away and sort of theoretical sounding at this point, there is serious star power headed to the 3rd season. Deadline says John Hamm, Stephen Fry, Tig Notaro, and Nicole Beharie are among the new faces joining the morning show. And finally today, it is truly the end of an era for Apple retail. A piece from 9to5Mac says not only is Apple Tysons Corner getting a modern revamp, it's also moving. It's staying in Tysons Corner Center, though it will change locations in that mall. What's the big deal? Technically, it was the first of Apple's retail chain to open to the public. According to 9to5Mac, Apple opened its first 2 Apple stores in May 2001, with one in Tysons, Virginia, technically McLean, according to the piece, and a second in Glendale, California. However, with the former on the East Coast, it was officially the first location. That makes even such a short move significant to some Apple enthusiasts. Among those is Apple retail watcher Michael Stieber, who said, "It goes without saying that this opening will be significant because it is the first time the first Apple store has ever moved, but this opening will be much more than that. Trust me, Tysons Corner is where it all began." Even Apple seems somewhat sentimental about the shift. 9to5Mac cites the message on the temporary facade of the new space, which reads, "The first ever Apple store opened 22 years ago here at Tysons Corner. Soon, we look forward to welcoming you to this newly reimagined space. Thank you for being part of our story. Here's to the next chapter." No word on when exactly the store will make the move. Both the temporary facade and the Tysons Corner store website include the message, "Hello, again. A new chapter is coming soon." macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by BetterHelp. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.